Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy PSHEBYLO. We're on location today at the Radisson Hotel in Saskatoon, and we have an inspirational story of hope with our guests Linda Lee and Linda Stuart talking about Stella's story, and we have Stella's mum, Mishi Methvin, here from Toronto. As always, we'd like to connect with you.
Tweet us at Shaw TV Saskatoon, find us on Facebook, or email shawtvconnect@shaw.ca. You can also watch previous interviews on Shaw TV's YouTube channel at youtube.com/ShawTV Saskatoon.
Stella's story is a remarkable explanation of life and a life cycle of some challenges and tribulations within one particular family. It's a sensitive topic, so we apologize if it reaches you at a difficult time. But we hope that you'll find a message of inspiration and hope in everything that we talk about in this segment today. I've invited Linda Lee and Linda Stuart from Toronto to talk a little bit about Stella's story and their involvement. And I want to welcome you both to Saskatoon, first of all.
Thank you.
Linda, let's start with you. How did you get involved with Stella's story, and what is it?
Stella's story is a story about a young girl, Stella Brunner Methvin. She was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor when she was about 2 years old. And so this story is about the journey that Linda Stewart and myself, that we took helping this family through a difficult time in trying to prepare for her memorial service. And the outcome of the celebration that we had with her was something that we were very proud of and that we thought about for quite some time, even after the funeral took place. And so it's the gist of her story is really about that journey and what we did to help the family celebrate that life.
So you are a licensed funeral director in Toronto.
That's correct.
And your involvement came as a result of a call that was made to you by Stella's mother.
Right.
What happened then?
Well, we met before Stella had passed away. It was a pre-arrangement that we were doing because they wanted to be prepared for this memorial service when it was to happen. And so it was during that meeting that I had introduced them to Linda Stewart, who is a life cycle celebrant. And we needed someone who was going to be able to help them pull together a lot of these details that they wanted in terms of celebrating Stella's life. So that meeting was the first time I had met them, and it gave us an opportunity to discuss some of the things that they wanted to have done. And Linda followed up and did the pulled together all those other elements that ultimately became the funeral service.
So when you're looking at it through your eyes and in your profession, what you do, what did you see as an opportunity with the family, what they had in mind? And they obviously had some lead time in expecting the death to occur prematurely. What steps did you take to guide them at what they wanted to do?
Well, we talked about the logistics of what was going to happen with their daughter, and what came from that was a discussion on that she was going to be dying at home, that it was a palliative care situation, and there were certain aspects that they didn't want to see when we were going to be removing her from her home. And so there were elements that were sort of different from what a typical funeral home may have addressed in terms of the way they would have handled that. And we also talked about all the wonderful ideas that they had in terms of recognizing Stella's characteristics, her life. Even though she didn't live a very long time, there were lots of things that they wanted to bring to this celebration.
They wanted singing, they wanted dancing, they wanted joy. They didn't want Stella's celebration of love, which is what we chose to call it. They didn't want it to be sad. And that was challenging, of course, because a funeral is sad, and a funeral for a little girl is unfathomably sad. But they really wanted a joyful occasion that would fully represent her spirit, which was bossy, and she was quite a spirited child. And they wanted something that truly represented that in all aspects. And so, yeah.
So you had that opportunity, I guess, to make some preparation and plan ahead of time. You had an opportunity to meet Stella, both of you?
Yes. Well,
And-
I did. Did you meet Stella?
No, I never
Okay.
did meet her.
So it was through the parents that your involvement came about. What did you have to experience, Linda, when you started to get the sense of who this little girl was and what she meant to the people, her family? How do you do that in your role as a life cycle celebrant?
Well, just so people understand even what a life cycle celebrant is, because a lot of people don't. So I work very closely with families and individuals and couples, and I create one-of-a-kind ceremonies, so from scratch, beginning to end. And so typically the families that would seek someone like myself are not regular churchgoers. They may not have a clergy person in their life that knows them well. So I spend a lot of time getting to know them, getting to know these families, because I have to in order to create something that's unique and authentic. So I met with Stella and her family shortly after Linda Lee met with them. Linda had passed along my information and they contacted me. And I sat in their living room and Stella was there, sat in between her mommies. And I don't really know that she understood what we were talking about, but she did know that it was upsetting because she was comforting. She was comforting her moms, which was really sweet. And we talked openly about what we wanted this ceremony to be like. And so we talked about rituals, and we talked about music and dancing and who was going to speak and stories that would be told. And one of the most unique, there were a lot of unique, beautiful elements, meaningful elements in Stella's ceremony, but one of the most unique was around this star here, our Stella Stars. So everyone was given one of these stars at the beginning of the ceremony, which they wore around their necks. And on the front of the star it says Stella, and on the back it says stellastars.ca. And so at a point during the ceremony, everyone was asked to take their star and leave it somewhere in the world where Stella never got to go. The whole idea being that people around the world would learn about her story, and as the stars were found in various places, that people would go online and read her story and place it somewhere themselves. So yeah, the stars were definitely
So there's a website with a mapping of that?
Yes,
showing
there's an
where they
actual
are?
map of the world, and you can see where the stars have been placed. And after you place your star, you can actually upload a picture, and you can tell your story about why you chose that particular place.
And what have you found with the uptake with the people that were there? Maybe someone that didn't know the family or Stella, and I have one here and I have a plan for it. How has the reception been about that?
It's amazing because, you know, one of the things about ceremony is the whole ritual component to ceremonies, the importance of ritual in a ceremony. And the thing with Stella's ceremony is there was over 300 people there, so it was very hard to create a ritual where everyone could be involved. And what I love about this as a celebrant is it gave everyone the opportunity to create their own ritual and their own unique way to say goodbye to Stella. And honor the way that she touched their lives. So everybody has just loved the stars.
So when you're looking at the ritual, maybe Linda, I'll bring you back in here with, what do you see when families, they have many different opinions and sometimes within the same family, what would you say is, in this particular case, why is it important to tell Stella's story and what happened with her and how you experienced that?
I think in a lot of situations where families experience a death, be it somebody who's young or old, there's oftentimes a plan of not doing anything to celebrate that life. Perhaps it's too painful, perhaps they're following the wishes of someone who said that they didn't want a funeral service. So we felt that it was important to show that even with a 3-year-old, we were able to find so many elements that we could bring forth in celebrating that life, and that this funeral service is actually an opportunity to bring support and people together and to help the family on their way to healing. And so that was one of the reasons why Linda and I felt it was important to share this message.
Are you hearing back from the general population? Is this more of an inspirational story, I guess, when you have families that you deal with and what you're talking about with regards to commemoration and celebration of that life lived? Are some still looking at this as yes, I'd like to do something like that, or how
Yes,
can I?
I'm finding that that's the way most people are feeling now, and I feel that they feel that there's more value to that, to having that kind of celebration ceremony. It's definitely, I think it's here to stay. I think it's here to stay. And I think the thing with Stella's funeral is that, you know, when you think about it, she was only 3 years old. She was only 3 years old, and yet, you know, look at how her life was celebrated and commemorated. And I would love to see funerals like that for everybody. I would love to see funerals like that for 80-year-olds, and there should be funerals like that for 80-year-olds because they've had 80 years to live. So there's so much to talk about, and it really is the first step towards healing for families. A good ceremony, I think, can provide them with that.
Is palliative care something that you're starting to experience more of in her particular case, where there is a terminal illness and someone's allowed to die at home? Is that something that you think you might see on a go-forward basis becoming more palatable amongst families that want to do that?
I think out of sheer necessity, because there aren't enough long-term care beds in many of, well, I know in Ontario, we certainly have a shortage of that. And for people who are dying, they may not have an option but to be cared for at home in their last days. So definitely palliative care is a direction I think out of necessity we're all going to be heading towards.
And I guess I would, first of all, thank you both for making the trip out here and sharing this story with us. If we're going to do this on our own and amongst our own families, what would you give us as parting words to do with the funeral director or life cycle celebrants or people that are commemorating the lives and celebrating the lives of people at funerals?
I think find whatever way it is that's meaningful to you to commemorate that life. Search for the meaning of, you know, what was valuable to you in that relationship that you had with that person, and honor that.
And I think that it's worth mentioning that, you know, there's a lot of people out there who feel almost guilty about wanting to have a funeral for themselves that is a celebration, and you know, we tend to feel that don't make a fuss about me. You know, just you know, do whatever. It doesn't matter. But I want people to understand that, you know, your funeral is not, it's not a gift you give yourself. It's a gift that you give those that love you. And so think of it like that. And you know, you may think it's selfless to suggest that they do nothing, but it can really help your family. The people that need to wake up every morning without you in their lives, it can really help them. So don't do them any favors by saying, don't do anything. Let them do something. Give them that permission.
Yeah. And the funeral profession and life cycle celebrants such as Linda, we're here to help people do that. That is our job, to help commemorate lives.
And given what you've done with Stella's story, I want to thank you both for sharing that with us. It's just a magnificent piece of work here.
Thank you.
Okay. Stay with us. We'll be right back.